While video games have never shied away from political and societal topics, never before has there been one so expansive while also retaining politics as its core focus, rather than as an analogy. Where most games would settle for depicting races as either have or have-nots, and also choosing either race, religion, or class as their dividing factor, Metaphor Refantazio is a dense enough game that it's able to incorporate 8 races and show how religion and class play into each one, making for a dizzying amount of commentary. I mean, people think Ghost of Yotei is shoving an agenda down their throat. This game is disemboweling you and surgically replacing your organs with the writer's views on every aspect of the current global political climate. Personally, I found this shift quite jarring, as Persona has always been especially effective on me as a 21-year-old because the characters were going through the struggles I either remembered or were still facing, which made each character a kindred soul and instantly relatable. While Metaphor's cast tackles much more mature themes, like social divide, grief, and legacy, which, while providing an endlessly fascinating dissection, also led to this game just not connecting with me as strongly as the last 3 Persona games. But with Metaphor's extraordinary length, it doesn't just waste it like other 100-hour RPGs do, by casting as wide a net as possible with the illusion of depth. Instead, it uses its length to focus on the complexity of its world. Where most fantasy realms waste their tens of thousands of lore entries discussing what happened before the modern day, Metaphor Refantazio isn't interested in the history of its own world at all. It spends its arduous runtime discussing the state of the current world and addressing its issues, making the world evolve along with the narrative. What I love most about this is complexity. Nothing is ever as black and white as it seems. Even the most heinous villain in this story isn't motivated by evil for evil's sake. Luis is the hero of his own story, despite his Machiavellian and distant demeanor. By the end, you'll come to realize he's more passionate than most villains you'll ever come across. Side note, you should never name your custom character your own name. I learned this the hard way, because my name is Louis, spelled exactly how you think it is, and holy hell did I have to do a double take every 15 minutes. There needs to be warning about this kind of thing, it really affected my enjoyment and immersion. But Metaphor takes great strain in sowing the seeds of discord amongst all races, and showing how some truly despise each other. One of my favourite examples of this is in your own party, when one member of your group is distrusting of another due to their race, but says in an especially powerful moment that while they will never like their race, they do like them. Each group has their own stigma and slurs levied at them over the course of the game, but what I found simply fascinating is that these insults were almost never to do with the physical appearance of a race, but the stereotypes associated with them. For example, the beastmen-type race Papyrus were never called mutts or dogs, but scorned for their lower class in society and violent tendencies. I was shocked that no matter how peculiar the race looked, not even the children would mock someone for their appearance, even in a social link where you help a little girl deal with prejudice. It comes from where she lives, not who her species is that gets her scorn. What I interpret this as is Atlas pointing out how insanely stupid racism is, because even though all these people are of different species, it's not their appearance that's ever repulsive. While in the real world, racism based on appearance or stereotype is unacceptable, to hate someone specifically because of their skin color is only capable if you are genuinely stupid enough to think that a different appearance makes you separate. We're all human, end of story. What I would like to talk about more is how the game almost directly insults people who are easily swayed by politicians who speak with confidence and authority. Although the most prevalent examples lie in the game's final quarter, so I'll speak vaguely. Luis is obviously a deranged dictator who's incapable of putting up the pretense of sanity. He simply speaks of a world he envisions, and because people agree with that vision, they support him, even though he never even admits to having a concept of a plan to achieve it. Hell, in the prologue, he admits to killing the last king, and he murders a man on stage by slowly cutting his throat open like a psychopath, and his cultists adore him for it. There's no brainwashing or magic going on here. His brazen and unadulterated ways of openly declaring his ludicrous goals is empowering to people easily swayed by overconfidence and excitement. I guarantee you there is no coincidence that this game released when it did, in an election year for Japan, America, and the UK. There's a good chance it might be the most culturally relevant game this year, and it's literally got a play on words of fantasy in the title. Now, what some of you may be thinking is that I'm reading way too much into this, and Refantazio is just a depiction of another fantasy world that deals with racism, and is no way a commentary on what's happening in the real world. To that I say, my brother in Christ, the game is called Metaphor! I'll be back in 2 days. In the meantime, here's a video about the best awakening moments in Persona 5.